sorry, one more question. Is it video or is it only audio? Oh, okay. Then I can just I don't have to present myself. I will not be picking my nose, but I don't have to be aware of the camera then. Is this? Oh, sorry. Is the sound good and everything? Okay, good. I will not interrupt you anymore. Promise, promise. I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you? Yeah, the same here. It's like the first day we have sun here in I don't know for the last I don't know six weeks or something. It's awful, but no, happy the sun and the blue sky is back. I'm an executive mindset coach, and I help my clients find balance, work on their mindsets. My clients are mainly like senior corporates, business owners, executives, um, and that's in one sentence what I do. That's been a it's been a very long and interesting journey. I think it all goes back to when I was 12 years old. My mother passed away, and I was asking myself all these questions, or I mean, not in that particular moment, but in the years after. It's like, well, why is this happening to me? What would what would it mean to live a fulfilled life, and how can you grow, and how can you create the best version of yourself, and what happens if you at the end of your life you look back, and you can say, I've done a good job. So that's basically where this seed was planted, I think. um, but I went uh, through a different journey as well, where because I thought, like to create a meaningful life, you need to be successful, you need to make a lot of money, you need to have a title, you need to have status, uh, and so I worked towards that, into first a career into hotel management, then as a financial trader. And I did have the success and I had the bonuses, but I also came to realize that that wasn't uh, fulfilling, or that wasn't going to make me happy. Um, so that was an interesting challenge, and the only way I thought I could uh, resolve it was by resigning and like breaking from it, which was difficult for me. I mean, because I was so attached to the status and the money, and uh, it took me about 2-3 years to finally come to that decision. And it's like, okay, enough is enough. If you, how long are you going to keep telling yourself this story? Uh, and that was when I was like 35. It's 13 years ago, and that's also when I really started to do the inner work for myself, uh, which then was needed to go into um, this coaching path that I'm on right now. And I can say, for myself, this is the first time uh, I'm working and it doesn't feel like work, which is an awesome feeling. Yes. Well, most of them, I mean, if you would, most of them are, they kind of feel like they're with their back against the wall. Whether that comes from a career or a business, or uh, a combination, or just not being as healthy as they would like to be, or not having the energy that they used to have. But that, I mean, it's the common thing. And they feel like something needs to happen, something needs to change. um, and that's where I basically guide them out of the woods, or that's how I would, yeah, how you could describe it. They know they need to change something, but they just don't know how, or they're just too attached to what they're doing, or what they have. um, they're working 70 hours a week. They think that's the way that's the way it should be. That's the way they grew into it for the last 10, 20 years, and they just don't. They can't even imagine anymore that it can be different than what they're doing at the moment. And yeah, they can. Oh yeah, I mean, a great story was this executive woman. She was managing 20,000 people, and she was talking about long-term employability, vital workforce, and she basically came to me and she's like, "I'm not walking my talk," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm." And these were her words. I'm fat. And she was 30 kilos overweight. Um, and so we started looking. It's like, okay, I can help you with that. And we started looking into that. And my initial thought was, of course, like, okay, weight loss, exercise. But then, like, we started really looking into her life, and she was working 70 hours a week. She was barely sleeping. She uh, had 5 children at home, where it was like, okay, I couldn't even imagine how she was managing this, and she wanted, there were issues around perfectionism, and she wanted to be this perfect mom as well. So we really had to look into these things of like perfectionism, but also like the sleeping, uh, and nutrition as well, because it's not that she wasn't eating uh, garbage, but there was like no consistency. The first meal would come at like 5 in the afternoon, and then it would grab something. There was like no consistency in fueling the body. So when she started sleeping, it's started to change so many different things. She she then had the energy to look at her leadership, which we dived into, and she had the energy to change and educate her team, to work on her strategies, to and of course, I mean, and then the ripple effect comes. She starts to show up differently in her family. Her children start to respond to her differently. And one of the funny things I remember her saying was like, uh, her children were still very young, so it was kind of a when she was in bed, there was kind of a parade along her bedside of all these children waking her up during the night. And she was like, I think she came into a session one week and she's like, I think it's a coincidence, but my children haven't come to wake me up during the night for like 3 days in a row. And I'm like, do you really think that's a coincidence? And she's like, yeah, it must be. It's like, I don't think so. You're coming into your family, after your day of work in such a different energy. You're not, you used to come, run in, like feed them, like take bathe them, and then some book reading, and it was all so rushed, and then you went back to work, so you weren't really there. Now you're there, and they'll copy your energy, and of course they'll start to sleep better. I mean, I will not say, that if you sleep better, your children will sleep better. But if you come into your family with a different energy, your children will adapt to that energy. They might play better, they might sleep better, they might eat better, whatever. But something, they'll adapt it, and uh, they will change it as well. And that's yeah. I mean, it was a phenomenal. It really was a phenomenal transformation. Uh, She's working now 45 hours a week, and she's as effective and as efficient. Well, not a well. Her results are still the same, which she was creating first with a lot of like hard labor. And she's doing exactly this. Well, she's creating the same results in what, 2/3 of the time. Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, she's not with her back against the wall anymore. Absolutely not. She's like in the middle of her life. She can she can look around. She has the helicopter view instead of like, having the train heading into her face, or yeah. Initially, I started working with them for 3 months. With this particular woman, I worked a year. Um, but yeah, some, like with some people, I make a commitment for 6 months, but that's usually where it starts. But in generally, it's 3 months, and then uh, a lot of my clients, um, they can't believe what they've realized in 3 months. I worked with another woman. She was she is a diabetic, and she kind of needed to go on medication, and she didn't want to. And she was like, okay, let's see what we can do. If we can improve it, and then stay in touch with your doctor. And I mean, this is your decision. Um, and she's been a diabetic for a long time, and she hasn't really been capable of like dealing with it in a proper way. So we started looking into basically the way she was eating and what she was eating, and uh, her emotions around eating. And uh, we we basically turned it around in like, I was working with her for 3 months as well, and we were 7 weeks in, and I asked her, it's like, so we're kind of halfway. What do you think? Where you're at, where you what were you anticipating? And this was earlier this year, and she said, I can't believe where I am right now. I hadn't even thought about that I could reach this by the end of 2021, let alone, ever in my life. I've been dealing with with this uh, diabetes for such a long time. I've talked to nutritionists, I've talked to specialists, and none of these people gave me what you gave me. And I was like, and she in her testimonial, she also said that I probably saved her life. I mean, I don't know. For me that was a bit overwhelming, but it was just really like looking into the way she was eating, the quantity she was eating. And I mean, in a simple way, I she was eating her dinner in front of the television, a big plate, and she was basically shoving it in. And and I mean, it sounds so simple, but I moved her from the couch to the dining table. Um, And now she was in front of this plate, this like enormous plate, and she's like, I can't eat all this. This is too much. I don't want it. So she basically cut her dinner in half, and that was the trigger for uh, losing weight, having more energy, the way she was showing up in her business. Uh, it was a very profound uh, transformation, and she's not going back, and her blood sugars are are decreasing. They're now at a level where she doesn't need to go on medication. Um, and yeah, I mean, I I gave her the tools, and we worked through some limiting beliefs, because a lot of resistance. It's like, why are you really going to move me to the dining table? That's never going to make a difference. But it did, and now she's eating with her partner at the dining table. So that relationship, only for that reason, is already changing to the positive, which yeah, I think is a great story. Hmm. It's really like taking tiny tiny steps. It's like, where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? And find these yeah, these tiny steps that will just take them a little bit out of their comfort zone, and then like keep the momentum going. That's also why I really want to do weekly meetings. I don't believe in like bi-weekly, or not every 2 weeks, or once a month. It's like you need to be in action. And once they start moving, they realize it's easy. And then they start speeding up, and then really the momentum picks up. um, and it's yeah. So I was just thinking about this other woman that I worked with. I do work with men as well. Don't get me wrong, but this just came up. She also an executive, and she also had sleep issues, and she was like, no, don't come to me with sleep. I've been sleeping 5 hours. I'm 45 years old. That's what I've been doing all my life. It's like, okay, I believe you. I said, what would happen if you would be able to sleep 6 hours? It's like, that will never happen. It's like, well, if this is where you start, it will never happen. Within a week, she was sleeping 6 hours a night. And uh, just by starting to believing it at first, it's like, I want you to wake up tomorrow morning and say, it's like, tonight I'm going to have a wonderful sleep. Not last night it was awful. You're going to wake up and you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to have a wonderful sleep tonight. And of course, we did like we created a bit of a sleeping routine, a walk outside in the evening. It's like, but she was sleeping 6 hours within a week, where she was like, this will never happen. I'm 45 years old. This never happened in my life. And then, of course, I challenged her, and it's like, so what will happen if you would sleep 7 hours a week? She said, well, now you need to prove me that 7 hours is the right amount of sleep. I was like, I don't. But yeah, so she's also sleeping so much better. And that just, I mean, I think sleep is the one underestimated health benefit there is. And I mean, the moment you sleep, it's and it's possible. And I've worked with so many people that said, it's not possible, and they all did it. Oh, I mean, if I could continue on this example, it's basically this is what people do. They'll wake up in the morning, and they look back at last night, and they'll say, this was an awful night. And they're basically preparing themselves for the next night. It's like, tonight is going to be the same, and this is what they keep doing, and that they just keep repeating the past. And uh, if you want to create that new routine, or that new, you need to create a new mindset first. If your mindset is to believe, that you will never sleep more than 5 hours a night, that's the result you're creating. If you I just spoke to a guy this morning, and he's an entrepreneur, and he's had some failed businesses as well, and he's kind of like, uh, the way he's like in his business now, it's like, oh my god, if this is not, I don't want this to fail. So he's creating that from results in the past. So we're now like really working on, it's like, okay, this is not the past. This is, you're working on something great. It looks very promising. Don't even go back to that thought anymore. What you are creating now, you are creating it from a completely different energy as well. In the past, there was uh, let's say some substance abuse, and that's all gone. It's in a completely different energy mindset. Of course, I can't guarantee him the success, but that, um, or that his business will not fail. There's so many factors at play, but the way I look at it, um, it's like, it's a total different mindset now than it was like 10, 15, 20 years ago. So of course you're going to create a different result, but let that, what you were doing in the past, let it go. Or don't bring that into what you're doing today. Oh, well, when I was trading, and I wanted to resign, uh, I did it. There was basically two options for me. There was my trading position, or there was living on the street. There was like nothing in between. I thought I was going to lose my house. I thought I was never gonna. No one was ever going to hire me again. I wouldn't be successful anymore. I wouldn't have any status. People would look down on me, or I was telling myself all these stories, and I was believing them without ever really checking if they were true. um, and that's yeah. And when I took that step, I felt so much freedom. um, I 2 weeks after I resigned, I went to Brazil, and I lived in Rio for 6 months. But I mean, I was on that flight. I cried. I cried for 12 hours. The poor man sitting next to me, I don't know what he was thinking, but that's fine. But I was just like, and I just needed to release all that tension, and uh, uh, yeah, all this, the tension of like of letting go of, or getting going into the unknown, and just like, and and that was, I mean, it was, the moment I arrived in Rio, it was like, okay, this is new. Let's see what I can make out of it, and I started to create that new mindset. Uh, where have I done that? In other, I do remember like getting my first coaching client. I was like, okay, I I was like, I had these beliefs like you can only be a coach if you have a client, but to get a client, you need to say that you're a coach. So I can't really say that I'm a coach because I don't have any clients, and yeah, so it's maybe a bit smaller, but that was really also, it's like, I need to create this mindset that I'm a coach, and that I can do this and that I can help people, and that took. I wish it would only take one day, but that took it took a couple of months. But yeah, that's kind of like creating the mindset. Um, I had done I've had done my own work on my inner journey or my inner work, and I saw so many people struggling with the same thing, and I love hearing people's story. I love helping them, and I was like, okay, uh, this is something that I'm good at. I have. Um, I like habit change. I'm. People tell me I'm a very disciplined person, um, which sometimes can be counterproductive. Uh, but I've worked through these things myself. But yeah, I mean, some of the stories that I told you of clients that I worked with, it's like the the recognition I get from that, or the appreciation I get from that, is like is what drives me. It's I've traded millions, and that didn't mean anything. There was never never even a thank you. Or it's like, you've done a great job with this. I mean, it's like you're touching people's lives. You can really see the difference, even within like 3 months. And that's yeah, that's what makes me happy. um the the there are a few things. One was getting out of that trading position. The other thing, which is maybe the most profound one for my inner work, was the relationship with my dad. um I when I was growing up, or as a teenager, I told you my mother just passed away, and you know, I basically created a belief where I was like, my father doesn't love me, he doesn't respect me, he is not proud of me, um, and I held on to that belief for probably 25 years, and it was like, it basically was destroying the relationship between me and my dad. Um, and then I came to realize that I wasn't, basically I was projecting everything onto him. I wasn't loving myself, I wasn't accepting myself, I wasn't proud of myself. And the moment I started doing that like inner work and working through these limiting beliefs, the relationship with my dad completely changed, and we're at a better place uh, than we've ever been. And the funny thing about this is that he hasn't really changed, or he hasn't really done any inner work. But and now I there's still, I mean, I can keep working on loving myself and being proud of myself, but I mean, that changed enormously. Uh, and now I can love him and respect him for who he is and for the mistakes he made. And uh, I created this belief that my dad needed to be this perfect person, which no dad will ever be. It's like, it's so unreal. But every time he did something that wasn't like matching the picture I created, it's like, oh my god, he's so awful. It's like it will never work. Or and it's yeah, I now know that that's yeah, complete nonsense. And I'm very, very happy I did that inner work, because I came to a point where I wanted to break with him. It's like, I can't deal with this anymore. But it was like, I was only looking outside and never looking inside. And yeah, that it was hard work. I mean, don't it's not something which you do like overnight. It was, and it did feel a little bit uh, like mourning in some way, where I had to let go of that image that perfect image that I created, uh, and that image never was going to be real. Uh, but I'm very, very happy that I did that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, that's. I mean, we create this, like, this perfect image, and then there is, let's say, the real image, and um, you have to you have to bring them at the same level, and basically you have to bring your perfect image down to where the other person is, and uh, accepting what is the shortest way to happiness. So if you can accept your father, your partner, your brother, your sister, your friend for who he or she is, um, you be yeah, it's a lot easier to be a lot happier. But if you look at the discrepancy between the two, and you focus on it, it will only grow and grow and grow. And that's what happened with me and my dad. It grew to a point where I was like, I want to break with you, uh, which I mean, there's been, my my father is a really nice guy. There's been no trauma, no abuse, nothing of that kind. But the story I was creating was like, um, I made it so big because I was only looking at what he wasn't instead of looking at what he was. Um, mhm, mhm. No, no, absolutely. Yes. We yeah. No, I totally agree. We look at our, well, in a way we think we're perfect, but then on the other hand, in the other at the other side, the way we treat ourselves. We can be so cruel towards ourselves. We all have this inner judge inside our heads that is just like it's on 24/7. And the things your inner judge will say to you or is saying to you, there. I mean, you would never say that to another person. Um, but you just keep going on. It's like how bad you are, how wrong you are, on and on and on. You'll never get it. Other people are better, and these are just like, I'm not saying it quite kindly. The language we use towards ourselves is very harsh. Mm-hmm. Yes, smoking. that was I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarette a day 25 years ago. um and that was, I mean, yeah, that was tough. I mean, I went from on my first attempt, I basically went from like 50 cigarettes a day to zero in one day. And I managed for about 4 months or something. And then I was like, oh, I can have a cigarette on a party or when I'm drinking, or uh, I mean, the first cigarette, yes, that it worked, but then it was like weekend, and then it was like again 2 packs in a weekend. Not like 2 packs a day, but 2 packs in a weekend. And then I did another attempt, and it was fine. And then I I also remember at a certain time I was working night shifts. And then I told myself this rule: I can smoke when I drink. So then I would come home in the morning after my night shift, and I would just drink a beer so I could have a cigarette. Not even like, I didn't really want the beer, but I wanted the cigarette. But I made this deal with myself: if I drink, I can have a cigarette. So long story short, I did a couple of attempts, and I haven't smoked I think for the last, I kind of remember when the last time was 18 years or so. I will never go back to that. That's such a, yeah, that was a very, very disgusting habit. And I'm so happy I'm off it. One of the other habits that I changed was drinking. Um, and I gave up drinking 4 years ago. Um, I mean, over the last 2 decades, I started to drink less and less and less, and I had like sober periods for 4 months, and then I did that a couple of times, and then I came to a point, I wanted to do another like sober period. And then I met this guy on a trip, and he was like, his brother did a suicide attempt, and he started to look at his own life, and he was like, I drink too much. I'm going to try not to drink for a year. And I was like, okay, I've done 3-4 months not drinking, but a year is really a challenge. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I started telling this to my peers, and they're like, well, they didn't understand, and they come all up with all these like remarks. It's like, you're not fun, you're not fun anymore to be around with, and you need to. When you used to drink, you were a lot more fun. And I was like, wow, whatever. It's like, this is what I'm gonna do. And then they started to talk about, like, when. So when is the time? What day are you? What day is the year gone by? It's like 27th of February. I still remember it. So it's like, oh, go ahead, we're gonna get you so drunk on the 27th of February. And then I started to think about that, and I was like, that's the most ridiculous way to celebrate that you haven't drunk for a year, to get totally hammered. and that kind of like triggered me into like giving it up completely. Uh, and I mean, it's one of the best things I've done for my mental fitness and for my well-being. Uh, the clarity I have in my head, and I just don't. For me personally, even if I would have like two glasses of whatever wine, gin tonic, beer, I would I would feel it somehow the next day. In the sense that my days are, let's say, normally a 7.5 out of 10, but then there'll be like a seven minus or something, and I just don't want that. It's not, for me, it's not worth these two glasses of whatever, to feel less energy the next day. And whether I don't want to wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, I don't want to do I don't want to work, because I had these two classes. I don't like that feeling. um if I wake up in the morning, and not having drank the night before, and I have that thought, okay, it is a thought, and it happens occasionally, but when I drink, it happens more, and that's just not uh, what I want anymore. So, um, but the peer for that, there was a lot of like peer pressure, and there's alcohol is so present in our society, the way uh, we celebrate with alcohol, and uh, if you don't drink, they people think you don't want to celebrate or something. um, that's one thing, but there's also like, it's also used as a like a reward system, after a day of hard work or a week of hard work. It's like, okay, let's have a drink. And it's such a I mean, if you really look at it, it's like a very weird way to reward yourself. Hmm. Um, yes, in a sense that, you know a lot of my clients, when they want to change a habit, they think they need to get it right or perfect. It's like, um, it's an all or nothing attitude, where if you allow yourself to fall off the wagon, you know, it becomes a lot easier to get back on, where like I see a lot of like, well, it doesn't really happen with my clients, but I see other people, when they fall off the wagon, they just basically go back to their old routine. They've been working so hard, through discipline, to not smoke, uh, or to not drink, or to not do, or like, uh, it, going exercising is like the other, like there's it's the other way around. They haven't been exercising for so long, and now they're like, I need to go 3 times a week. And they go from 0 to 3 times a week. I know. I mean, it's my attitude is more like, let's start with once a week, and if let's create that kind of goal, and see, if you want to take up another session, it's fine, but the goal is one, and this eventually, uh, creates a lot more momentum, and it becomes way more sustainable, where if you're forcing yourself to go like 3 times a week, purely on discipline. um, does that make sense? Yeah. So, and you know, I was talking about falling off the wagon. If you fall off the wagon, that's 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 totally fine. You just like it's just one day, one hurdle, and just it's part of the process. And like uh, the way I gave up smoking, the way I gave up drinking, um, is a very uh, yeah, it's like similar journey. I didn't get it right the first time. I had my what is that called again? Um, I was seduced into having another cigarette or having another drink and and taking it too far. And yeah, so it's these seductions, they're ever present in our society, whether they are marketed or whether they are pressured on by your peers. um, yeah, it happens. They can come to my website, which is baslebesque.com, or they can reach me on LinkedIn as well, uh, under my name, Bas Lebesque. And yeah, they can contact me. For the first session is always free. So if you just want to experience a free coaching session, reach out, um, and we'll take it from there. Yeah, I already use it. The short accepting what is the shortest way to happiness, and that's um, very meaningful for me. And the moment I get into like a situation where I want it to be different, yeah, but just bring it back to the now and to what is, and and don't fight it, and you'll be a lot happier. No, and I mean, it's very, it's not easy, once you create awareness around that, and um, some of the things, life throws challenges at you, and life throws misfortune at you, where and everybody gets it. It's not like some get it more than others, but you will lose people in your life. uh, you will you will deal with illness, and some deal with trauma. um, but and yeah, for some things you need to work harder to accept it. But if you that should be your kind of your end goal, to be able to accept it. um, and that's, I mean, it's easier said than done. But no, no, exactly. You fight it, it will bite you. What resists persists. um, yeah, is that's it. Thank you, Tony. Thank you.